Okay, for this particular video, what we're going to do is install virtualization. And we're going to use a Windows operating system as the host system. We're also going to use a Windows operating system, basically Windows 10, as the guest operating system, in other words, for the virtual machine. Now, some people do not have the ability to be able to actually run true virtualization, so there are other products out there you can use. One of them being one of my very favorites, which is VirtualBox by Oracle. So I've already downloaded the installer file that runs on a Windows system. There's one that runs on OS X for Mac. There's another one that runs on Linux. And I've also taken the time to download a ISO for Windows 10 that I'll be installing on it. Now we will pause the video throughout here as we're doing the install so we're not sitting there watching the entire install process. You don't need to watch the progress bar. So we're going to do the installation of Oracle VirtualBox to begin with. And at this point, I'm just going to do the basic one. We're going to just accept the defaults and let it run. Now that one, of course, that was the user account control that popped up and kind of blanked the screen. And this one's going to go fairly quick because I've actually done an installation of it before, uninstalled it to make sure things worked before I did the video. Okay, so it's actually put a shortcut up on the desktop and it's asking me, do I want to open it? I'm going to go ahead and open it. Now, I don't have any virtual machine created, so there's no way for me to add it. What I need to do is go to New. When I go to New, now I can name it. Well, I'm probably going to do Windows 10 because that's what I'm using. Now, I could have named it anything I wanted, especially if I'm going to use multiple Windows 10s. So here we're going to go and we're going to look. It says Microsoft Windows. I normally accept the defaults as to where I want to store it. You can do whatever you want at this. It's just easier to do it at this point. Now, it's not just Windows I could have installed here. I have ISOs for Linux that I could put on here, but there's also Mac OS X, BSD, Solaris, and so on. Now, if you take a quick look, let's go through some of these. Let's say we got Linux. Here's the different versions of Linux that you can install. And let's say, hey, it's Windows. Well, believe it or not, we can go all the way back to Windows 3.1 as long as you have the installation files, which I believe I have hidden around here somewhere. Well, here are the servers. This is Server 2016. This is Server 2019. And I happen to be working with a Windows 10 64-bit. So that's what I'm going to install. So I'm going to click Next. Well, how much RAM do I want to install? Okay. Well, there's 2 gigs of RAM. Now, my machine that I'm working with actually has 16 gig of RAM. So let's move it up a little bit. Matter of fact, I happen to know it's easier just to go to 8192. I'm going to give it half the RAM. I'm just installing one virtual machine at this point. I'm not really worried about it. If I was installing more, I would have used less RAM. This will actually let it go up a little bit quicker. Now, I do not have a virtual hard disk. So at this point, I need to create a virtual hard disk. I'll have other videos in the future where we'll actually have a hard disk created and we'll import it. We'll do some exporting and so on to show you how this works. So, what am I going to use? I'm going to use a VirtualBox disk image. Now, I could go with the VHD hard disk, which is typically what you see on a Windows system. So let's see if this is going to work. If it doesn't, I'll start all over again. What do I want to do with the disk size? I'm a big fan of using dynamically allocated. That way it can expand and shrink as needed. Now, if I'm limited on disk space, I might go with a fixed disk. But the problem with it is, you got to remember, you're going to possibly be installing updates and so on, maybe adding stuff, software programs. So you got to kind of be careful with what you're going to do. Now, I'm just going to start out with 50 gigabytes. Well, really, you know something? I can actually go more than that. Let's go ahead and go up to 100 gigabytes. I know I've got that much space, so I'm going to select that. Well, There we go. Let's go ahead and move this. Yeah, that's good enough. We're just going to pick something in the middle and let it run. Okay, so now we are setting at Windows 10. That's what we've named it. We haven't done the install file yet, mainly because we haven't even added the ISO to it. So if we're going to add the ISO to it, we're probably going to have to start it. And let's see what it's going to do. Obviously, it's not going to find it because I missed a step. So what am I going to do? I need to actually go browse and find it. So if I browse and find it, notice that it says not attached. Search by name, so on. Looks like I'm going to have to start from the very beginning. Or am I going to be able to add that particular file? So we're going to go here. Let's see if we can find it. And right there it is. So I haven't really missed a step. There's always ways to catch this stuff. So I kind of like doing it this way to actually give somebody an idea of, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then we're going to start it as though we would do a normal installation. Now, obviously, it popped up over on another screen, which I'm going to drag back over here. But it is actually installing Windows 10 at this point. And it will go through the entire installation process. We'll have to accept the EULA, we'll have to select locality settings, and so on. So when it gets done, I will come back and we'll finish it. Here we go. Let's go from this. Let's go here. We're not going to repair the computer because we didn't have it installed to begin with. Install. So setup starting, there should be one other step that pops up. And hopefully I'm doing this for students that are in like maybe IT fundamentals or A+, whatever. Remember, I'm not using education, all right? I downloaded Enterprise. So what I want to do is go with a Windows 10 Enterprise. Notice I have all the different versions I could install, but I know what I actually want to use. So I'll select this. Let's go ahead and get this stuff out of the way. I really don't need these notes. And I'm going to accept the EULA, End User License Agreement. I know we can't see it all. Right there it goes. Sorry about that. And there's nothing been installed here before, so I'm going to do a custom, or what I call a clean install. Notice that there's no partitions created. That's the way it should be. So when I create new and I click apply, yes, it's going to wipe out the information. I'm not worried about that, but it should create two partitions and then start to install. So here we go. And it will just take a few minutes. Now that's why I actually applied 8 gigabytes of RAM, so that this thing would run much quicker. In the meantime, I'll pause it and we'll come back when it finishes. Okay, took a little longer than I thought, but as you can see, the installation finished, and I'm going to select yes for networks because basically I want to be able to go out and surf the internet with this. And of course you see the time, the date, and so on, just to make sure that you do understand that this is a virtual machine. Hang on just a moment so that I can minimize this with where you'd be able to see it. Let me pause for just a moment. Okay, now that we're back and we're recording one more time. Now I'm at full screen, just so that you know. I'm going to go right down here. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to click right here. And when I do that, it'll show you that, hey, I am setting in the virtual machine. So you see, it's not that hard to install. And then you can configure it to do different things like surf the internet, get out onto the rest of the network. And if you want to get a usable ISO, just go out there and search for an ISO that's used for evaluation. Now, if you have any problems, post a comment. I will do what I can to get you a link so that you can download it. If you like what you see, please subscribe, select like, and I will put out more videos. Hopefully one tomorrow night and a few more as the week goes on. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we will catch you again.